Good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. If you attended the morning session, welcome back. Today we will cover citations and reporting, which, as I said, are new features in Signal 4. My name is Ilir Beylieri. I'm a faculty with the University of Florida. I'm the director of the Signal 4 Analytics program. With me today is also Dan Brown of Signal 4. Marnie is not available today.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, Dan. Dan will be keeping an eye on your questions and chats, and we'll be getting back with you as we go. So as you've learned by now, if you attended any of the previous webinar, the communication would be via text. At the bottom of the screen, if you hover, you will see this gray toolbar. It has three buttons: a chat, a raise hand, and Q&A. We would like you to direct our questions through Q&A. If they are about content of the webinar, and if you have any technical issues, then you are welcome to use chat. Dan will keep an eye on both of those. Raise hand, it's also an option, but we're not sure really how to use that. You don't need to, we don't need to basically allow you to speak, so to speak. No pun intended. You can simply go to the Q&A and just type a message for us. The response would be along the way, given that we're getting lots of questions. And then at the end, if we have time left, I will be taking some questions that could be more applicable to the majority of the audience. If we don't get to your question, we will get back with you. We are going to prepare a Q&A list after the webinars, and then we'll distribute that to everybody. And then for any non-pressing question, you can always email me directly. This is my email address here, ILIR, just like my first name, @ufl.edu. For folks that may not be hearing us at the moment but can see the screen, hopefully they can read what we're saying here. For everybody, if you have any trouble with audio, the place to go to is the audio setting. There, follow the options to adjust your computer speakers if you are using your computer speakers to talk to us, or leave the computer audio and just join the telephone. I had the telephone number in my first slide, but it's also in the registration information that you received after you signed up. We'll be recording this webinar. It's actually recording as we speak, and we'll make it available for afterwards. Also, all the materials will be available afterwards, including slides, the list of questions and answers, as well as the recording. Before we get started, we wanted to do a quick poll to see the composition of the attendance today. This section talks about citations, and that's more an area where law enforcement officers would be interested, but obviously the other users or professionals throughout Florida would be interested as well. So I'll pull up a poll real quick. You can answer it anonymously. You'll get those three questions. Just check one. Basically, law enforcement, non-law enforcement, or public agencies, and otherwise you could check the third if you are a private contractor. So I will pull that up right now. Go ahead and please vote. We're at about 50%. And I'll share the results with you at the end of this poll. Got a few more questions. I understand some of you may be on the phone and probably are not seeing the screen. So we're at 77% at this point. 80, 81. So I'll leave it a few more seconds. 80, 85, 86, 87. Perhaps folks are still joining. Okay, a couple more seconds. All right, looks like we're stable at 87, so I'll end the polling. And here are the results. So we've got more or less split between law enforcement and non-law enforcement, and we've got about 16% of private consultants. Thank you for doing this poll. I'll take a screen capture of this for our own information. Okay, I'll stop sharing the results and we will get back to our webinar here. Thank you again. As you're already aware, we've been teaching this webinar split in 4 sessions. Yesterday we covered the basic overview in the morning and the advanced features of Signal 4 in the afternoon. Earlier today we covered network analysis, and today, right now, we're going to talk about citations and reporting. So in this session, more specifically, we will talk about citation data source, where it comes from, what are some of the filters that we've provided, the charts that we've provided, how the mapping is done. I will talk about that a little bit because, as I said, there will have a full-blown webinar on just on the mapping itself later. Reporting, and then we have a section on reporting, so we'll talk about reporting of crashes and citations, the chart types that we've made available, as well as the reporting variables. So the citation is the third database that's included in Signal 4. If you attended the first day, we talked about three data systems that are integrated here is the crash data, the roadway data, and the citation data. Citations, there are about 700,000 citation records at this point in Signal 4. They only are from January 1st, 2018 to present, so the last 3 months. Data is provided by Florida Court Clerks and Comptrollers, FCCC. It's provided to us daily. FCCC is contracted by DHS&V to collect the citation data in one place and provide that to DHS&V. I'd like to thank FCCC for sharing this data with us to make it available to you all as a resource to help target better the enforcement and optimize the enforcement to prevent crashes. So let's go live and see what citations look like in Signal 4. All right, so what we have here is the typical view of Signal 4 when you log in. Right now I'm showing crashes in the last 3 days, 4/8 through 4/10. You've got the map, the data grid, the layers panel, and so on. Now, what is new here, you'll see if I scroll up and down, there are 3 sections in the query panel. These are collapsible. So the first one is time, place, and agency. You have access to this already. In here we have date, time, geographic extent, and the reporting agency used to be under a different categorization. Now it's here under time, place, and agency. And this is a listing of all the law enforcement agencies in the state. The second panel is the crash filter. We've been talking about this quite a bit in the past webinars today and last week. The focus today is in the violation filters panel. You can see that this is in beta. We have it, it's operational, but it's never been used before. It's new, and therefore we will be keeping an eye on it as you all start using it, and then make adjustments, bug fixes, and things like that as necessary. So you will not be able to see this yet, but it will be made available after we complete the webinar and send you all the information. So most likely about this time next week. We need another week to put this all together. The violation panel, it's much simpler than crashes. So we have two categories: information about violator and the information about circumstances. So I will talk more about these. For now, I just like to show you what citations look like. If we were to go over to the map layers panel, now in addition, under events, in addition to crash, you see a violation checkbox. So if I click on this, it's going to query the database of violations or citations. I will use these terms interchangeably. We decided to call citation violation in this in signal 4 to basically indicate what they are. Since citation, it's usually the term used referring to what people get in terms of their violation. So what you see on the map now is a combination of crashes and citations. So we're using this pie chart symbology in blue, and the total there shows both numbers. So for example, down here in the circle, you have 651 events, and by event we mean both crashes and citations or violations. That's why we called this button, used to be called crash analysis, now it's called event analysis, because there are two events in the database now. And then you can see the proportions of each. At the bottom of the screen, there is a new tab for the data grid called violations. If you click on it, then you get access to the data grid with some basic violation information. So what we have here is a little icon that shows whether that violation has been mapped or not. There are a lot that are not mapped, and I'll talk about that later, a little later. Then you have issuing the citation number, issuing an agency, date, time, city, county, Florida statute, violation code, classification, a violation description, violation type, gender, age, and whether a crash was involved or not. Remember, this database contains all violations, not just only associated with crashes. It contains, more precisely, UTC data, Uniform Traffic Citation data, that are reported by all agencies. We came up with a selective list of all the attributes. Obviously, a citation, a UTC form, contains many more data elements, but we thought these ones were more relevant for any analysis and to help understanding what's going on and how they're related to crashes. So if I could explain a little better over here on if we could focus for a second on the query panel. Under violator, you have choices, male, female, or unknown. Violator age, you have a breakdown by age every 5 years. Then under circumstances, there is the classification: moving, non-moving, criminal, pedestrian, or bicyclist. Violation, whether a crash is involved or not. For example, if I wanted to see only the violation that include crashes, we can click this and then rerun the query. So now the number of violations, obviously, it's smaller. And if I wanted to, so I will just bring this back to all for now. And then I'll explain the violation type. So you can see all of them are roughly 3,400, and it was only 600 something that involved the crash. Violation type is the one that we probably want to stop a little longer. This is something that we developed in consultation with, we've been spending some time working with FHP since they have a statewide database and serve the whole state, to be able to develop this. And we used whatever it's in the manual for various categories, and then came up with this list. So this doesn't include necessarily all the detail types, but it's grouped the data in a certain way. So let me share with you the logic on how the violation type was put together. So we looked at the various fields that deal with detailed information on citations, such as section, subsection, description, classification, violation code, and group them. So you can see all these violations here are all under the careless, reckless driving category. Or all these other violations here have to do one way or another with the driver license and so on, right? DUI, et cetera, et cetera. The way to access this spreadsheet, this PDF, is under violation type. You have this little I button there. You click on it and it will give you a little pop-up that explain how you get the complete list, and all you need to do is just click here for more information, and it will pull that file that I just showed you on the screen. You can then save that separately, print it, and use it as you need to. So if you are interested in just looking at citations, here in the table of contents, you can simply uncheck crashes. And here you are now looking at just the citations, right? So you don't have to look at both. The idea of having to look at both is that when you do more detailed study, you want to see where citations and violations are occurring versus when crashes are occurring. What kind of violations are occurring? Are there some of those that can lead to a crash? And do we need to adjust enforcement to the areas where we'll probably see more crashes but not as many citations? So that's the goal behind this, is to help law enforcement target better the enforcement, but also can be useful for other non-law enforcement folks that can get an idea what's going on in terms of violations out there, and most importantly, to coordinate the engineering, education, and enforcement efforts. One thing in the data grid that I want to point out, you may see that some of these citations are missing date and time. Sometimes they're missing the city, the county. I should say that the data that we're obtaining, it's we just started this process, and by that I mean in January 1st, 2018. So it's been only 3 months. And as we're collecting this data, we are starting to analyze them. So this process is very fresh, is very recent. And then we're noticing some of these things, and we're looking into them. We expect to work closely with DHSMV and FCCC to understand why some of these things are happening, and then make proper adjustments so that the data here is the best data that is available. Another point that I'd like to make is that if you could see here at the bottom of the screen, this query, it's pulling for just these 3 days, is pulling 3,471 citations, but only roughly 1,600 of them are mapped, which is less than half. That's because citations are more difficult to map automatically. And I'll take a minute to explain this. In the Florida crash form, the location data fields are structured. That is, there are different boxes, say, for on-street, intersecting street, distance, direction, and so on. In citations form, there is a single field which you just use to describe the location. And to be able to see that point on the map, it's more challenging because the text information on that field need to be parsed. Because it's not structured, it makes it more challenging to map. So when we've done some testing, try to automatically take the address of citation address and map them, the success rate is very low, to the point that we thought it was not useful. So we decided that the way to go forward is to plot those citations that come with a latitude and longitude. For example, some agencies that use GPS, and that GPS, it goes into the citation, and it's included in the citation data, we can use that to plot the point on the map. For other agencies, we've developed a tool that it's called geolocation tool, that we're working with vendors in the state to incorporate it into various citation systems, so that the officer can map the citation on the field, and therefore when it's mapped directly on the field, when it comes here, it will show up in the map. One of the agencies there are some agencies that tracks, that use the system that's offered by the state, that's called tracks, and some of those agencies are using the tool. One of them, for example, is Hialeah PD, that's mapping all their e-citations are mapped using the tool, and I'll show that a little later. So you will find that if you go look specifically for citations that are written by your agency, if you're law enforcement, you may find that a lot of them may not show up, and that's the reason, because there is no geographic information that will allow us to actually plot, find out where those locations are on the map. However, as I mentioned, there is a statewide effort to address this issue, and we're very hopeful that by using the tool that is available as we speak, gradually that problem will be corrected, and you'll get here much better data when it comes to mapping. So let's go and take a look at this a little more closely. I'm going to expand the date range, let's say from 4/3/2018 till today, and rerun the query so that we can have a little more citation. So about 25,000 violation overall for these just a week of data or so. All right. So you can see how many are mapped at the bottom and how many are retrieved totally. Let's look at the charts here to see what the distribution of this citation data look like. In the charts now, you will see, you don't see it yet, as I mentioned, but you will see it in about a week or so. There is an option under events. There is a pick list, and you need to switch to violations. And there you have, these are the attributes that you can chart: day of the week, time of day, violation type, violation classification, age, and gender. You can see, for example, distribution of these violations by the day of the week, and there is a problem with the unknown day of the week right now. Hopefully this will be corrected in the foreseeable future. Time of day, again, the data is skewed because of a number of them being unknown. Violation type, there is also unknowns on the violation types, but this data is a little better. So you can see there's a lot of speeding violations, careless driving, registration, fail to yield, and so on. You can explore these on your own. It's pretty straightforward. Violation classification, violation age. You can see statewide, this age tend to commit more violation than the rest of us that are a little more responsible. It's a joke there. And then the gender, and unfortunately, guys, this is always how it looks. We seem to be doing worse than our female counterparts. It's almost like that in all the various combinations that I've played around with. So we got to be more responsible. Let me see. Let's take a look at another way of how to look at this data. For example, you can go to the 2D chart, and this would allow you to combine two attributes together. But first, remember, up here, you need to switch to violations. And then you have those options available. So let's take a look at type and age. Right, so now you've got to break down a much more detailed breakdown of various types of violations with the violator age. All right, so you can basically study this more closely when you only have access to the system and decide how this could be helpful to do the analysis of citations for your agency or for your geographic area of interest. I will narrow this data set a little bit more by looking at the agency level, which I'm sure would be something of very much of interest. So under reporting agency, you could choose any given agency. I'll pick Hialeah PD for this example. And then simply rerun the query. So we got 892 violations. And if you look at the mapping down there, it's almost all of them, right? As I understand, Hialeah PD is still writing some paper violations, but even those are entered in the system before they are sent to the state or to the clerks of court, I believe. So, and we have a small discrepancy, but most of them are mapped. So let's look at some of the attributes that we're looking before. And then you can see here at this point when the data it's correct, then you see this is more useful, right? Because we can see the distribution of when these violations are occurring or when this enforcement is basically recording these violations. We can look at time of day distribution and many other attributes there. So I've got in my notes here to pick a specific date range to illustrate something else, 3/1/2018 through 4, well, I guess through today it's just fine. So 4/10/2018. And I'll leave the rest of the filters alone, so pretty much pull all the violations. So 7,700 or so. Takes a moment for all of them to draw. As you can see, the date range is a little bigger, so there's the mapping percentage is not as high, and we're looking into this to see what's missing there. And it could be attributed to the fact that some are in paper and not e-citations, and therefore, obviously, the mapping could be a problem with them. So the way you can zoom in, just like with crashes, the same familiar use of the map. And as you zoom in really close, say if I want to look at this area, I see a lot of citation in just these 3 months. Well, 3/1, so it's just a little over a month. A lot of citation activity in this area. So you might want to think, okay, what's going on there? Perhaps there is a campaign. Perhaps we had a lot of crashes. So if you, for any reason, want to study it more closely, then what I would do would use some of these tools that we have, that we've explained for crashes. They work exactly the same way. So if I pick, oops. All right, so I will first select just the citation in this area, and there's the select tool. It gives you 3 shapes to choose from to be able to select specific locations on the map. I'll just take the square here and draw a rectangle around it. They are only the selected citations. So at this point, I can complete this and then switch the map to show only the selected one. This now would allow us to do a more specific analysis of this stretch. So we can look at time of the day. You can see where that enforcement is applied, day of the week, violation type. So you can see quite a bit of speeding, so that probably a noticeable problem there. And so on. So I guess age and then gender. So I guess you may want to ask, perhaps this spot was, or this area in general, was an area with a lot of crashes in the past. So can we look at that more closely? Well, first, we sure can. Let's clear this selection, right? And then go over to our map layers, and then let me zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to turn on the crashes. See how many crashes we have here. So, not a whole lot of crashes, right? But again, crashes don't occur as frequently, or they're random, so you have to study them for a long period of time. So what I'll do is I will turn off the violations for a second, and then I will expand the date range here for crashes to see maybe there have been a lot of crashes a year ago, right? So the date range for crashes will be, let's just say, pick a whole year in the past. So maybe we'll go 1/1/2017, right? And rerun the query. So this is coming back with 16,000 crashes reported entirely by Hialeah PD. However, we're only interested in that stretch, so it zoomed to all of them. To quickly go back to the previous extent, I had mentioned this before, you can hover over this little round button there, and you have previous extent. These two buttons, next extent and previous extent, controls the back and forth, but not for the whole browser. It's specifically applicable to just this portion in the map. So if we go back there, you can see that there is a lot of crash activity going on in that area. And I have no knowledge of this area whatsoever. I would all what I'm saying, it's basically speculation. But that's not the point, right? The point is I'm trying to show the value on what you can do here to be able to start perhaps targeting the enforcement or see what effect the efforts have, perhaps by comparing crashes before and after certain campaign, or close coordination with traffic engineering. Maybe there are some areas that are more prone to crashes that we can fix by or address by making adjustment to the engineering aspects of the roadway, and so on. Now, you can go and look to your specific agency. I will, since I'm here down here in South Florida right now looking at this, I will change the geographic extent. First, let me change the date range to what I had earlier. And let's change the reporting agency to all. And then let's look at geographic extent, say if you want to do a county-wide analysis. Then we'll change that to county, and let's pick Miami-Dade. There you go, Miami-Dade all. So what I have is sort of the last week or so for Miami-Dade County, and then I can run a query. Now, because we have two event types, now the query is querying both crashes and citations at the same time. And what you're seeing is whatever it's turned on the map. So right now, only crashes are checked. So let me check violations. And there you go, right? And then you can go and look at the specifics. In this case, you know, we have almost 4,700 violations, but only about 1,500 mapped, right? So that is hopefully something that we'll see improving. If we wanted to look at, say, at another agency, I'm just going to pick FHP here. We used FHP, worked with FHP during the development, and we're obtaining the data directly. I'm sorry, county shouldn't change. It's the reporting agency. So we're obtaining data directly from FHP during that period. And I'll rerun the query. So again, we'll see. So we get about 676 violations for just that week. Let's turn the crashes off. And then you can, you know, we can look at these and see how, you know, what the distribution is. It's county-wide, and all those various activities that, or attributes that we just looked at. I want to point out that you can see how these are, most of them are mapped because FHP has a GPS in the cars, and they use that for both crashes and citations. So therefore, the results here are really high. If you wanted to see the unmapped records for any reason, then we have a little interface here, a little button next to the export button. You can expand, and here it can control the visibility of what's shown on the map. So if we wanted to see the unmapped records, obviously we can't see them. They are here in the data grid, and these are the particular records that are not mapped at this time. As I said earlier, because when we did the testing of taking the address field and try to geocode that using a process called address matching, uses GIS or Geographic Information System, the results were very low to the point that they were not useful. So we do not geocode citations. Instead, we plot them at their lat-long location, if that's available, or if the law enforcement agencies used that geolocation tool I mentioned, which is available now to any agency, then they would map it right there on the field, and it will show up here at the location where it was mapped. So let me switch back to all of them, and then the points are back. At some point, you may want to, for example, you may want to export the data. Just like with crashes, we have a little export button here. And all that's available at this time, since, as I said, this is fresh, we have the CSV format, which you can then open in a spreadsheet. So let me go ahead and export this. It's ready to go. Let me now save it so that you can see what gets exported. So there's the file that was zipped and downloaded on my computer. I'll extract everything in there. And there it is. So you get a CSV file. Let's open this up. And that's what it looks like. So what you have here is those fields that we were showing in the data grid, right? Citation number, agency, date, time, city, and description, and so on. And then in addition, what you have here, it's whether a crash was involved. It's 1 for yes, 0 for no. We could consider explicitly calling this yes, no. And then there is these additional fields that that you see here from here down that are additional that we added. The source format indicates whether lat-long was available or not, right? So if it was available, then the address used indicates that we use lat-long. So we plotted that citation location at the provided the lat-long information, and there's the information in latitude, longitude, decimal degree. And then in addition, these numbers here that you see for Albers X and Albers Y are coordinates that this latitude, longitude are transformed into a different coordinate system. This is typically used in GIS. So if there's anybody that uses GIS or wants to use this data in a GIS system, they can simply either use latitude, longitude to map these points, or they can use Albers XY. Our plan in the future is that, just like with crashes, we will provide a file geodatabase format for those that do GIS to do the conversion for you, so that the data will be in GIS format already. These can very easily map, though, because all the information is here. Now, you will see that if there is no information, then you're not going to have any coordinates because no source was available. And again, if this was mapped by the officer on the field, then it will say that, it should say that, and it will provide you the corresponding information in these fields. So this is more or less what I wanted to cover on citations. There is a second portion that we want to cover in this session today, and that is about reporting. So reporting, it's essentially aspatial, so there will be no maps there, but there will be a lot of charts that you can use to understand the data better. So reporting is in fact available right now, but it's not quite complete. It will be complete next week, and it will be posted there. So notice that reporting opens in a new tab. It's not in that same tab. In fact, because this is also built with a newer technology, and eventually all will be in a single page down the road. So what the reporting looks like is a number of, let me collapse them, a number of charts that will allow you to analyze the data. So right now, this is working on crashes. So if you look up here, let me get my pointer back. Under reporting, we have crashes and citation. Right now, crashes is highlighted, so we're working with crashes. So we're looking at this chart is crashes by year in the last 5 years. And you can look at totals and see what's going on. So see we have a slight increase and then maybe slight decrease of 2017, although that year is not finished yet, is not closed as it's referred to. And these are only for 2018 so far. You also have the second sort of bar inside the bigger one that shows the relative numbers for the same period of time, right? From January through February, you can see that 2016 there is actually more crashes and slightly less crashes, and then even less in 2018. This is all statewide, but if you wanted to look at this by a certain city or county, you can actually type in here the city or county or interest. And likewise, you can search by law enforcement agency. And it applies to all of these charts. Let's look at some of these other charts. So crashes by month. It shows distribution of crashes by month. And there is also this year-on-year comparison. So if I click 2017, it's going to give me a comparison of 2017 and 2016 by month. So you can see sometimes those numbers are quite consistent, sometimes start to change. To this point is quite a huge change. So it will help you understand what's going on with the data and have a better understanding. The third one is crashes by day. Again, this is, you have options to look at 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But you also can have this little slider here where you can dynamically narrow your timeline to see the distribution of crashes. Notice something interesting here. This is 2017. Sometime in September. This is during the time of the Hurricane Irma, and when we looked at the data, it looked like we had an increase in crashes where everybody started to evacuate, and then a huge drop when everybody was inside, and there was not much traffic going on. So this is quite interesting to see this in the data. And then you can compare, if you chose another year, you can compare basically crashes by day to see how they changed. You also can align them by week. Here is a crash attribute distribution. This is similar to what you can do interactively. So for example, if we wanted to look at crash severity distribution, for 2018, or if you wanted to do for 2017. This is meant to be a quick way to interactively visualize the data and sometimes do year-on-year comparison as we showed in some of those other charts. And then last here, there is a, these are collapsible, so let me collapse them. There is a one that it's not very common. This is about data timeliness. We always get question about how complete is the crash database. Although we say that we have the data provided by DHSMV as of this morning, for example, that does not mean that we have all the crashes here that occurred as of this morning. As you know, sometimes it takes a while for a crash report to close and be reported. So if you want to have an understanding of that distribution, this is what you need to look at, the timeliness. So the first bar, the blue bar, shows the amount of reports that were submitted between 0 and 10 days. So in this particular case, in January 2018, almost 80% of reports were submitted to the state. Again, I'm looking at a statewide view here. Then in gray, you have 14.3% reported between 11 and 30 days, and then a small percentage, about almost 6%, reported later than, or 31 days or higher. All right, and then you can see that reporting month by month. Or if we go, say, 2017, we can see, what that looks like for that year. Right, so sometimes the numbers, some months are more, but I guess what matters here is the relative percentage. And what you want to see, obviously, is a lot of blue, maybe a little less of gray, and as less as possible of that green color, right? So that way we know what kind of timeliness we have. Now here, you can narrow this down by crash type, so you could change the severity to any of these, whether you wanted fatality crashes or injury crashes or any kind of impairment, bike bed, CMV related, codable crashes, which I explained yesterday morning, and then there's the form type. These are the most frequently used that we could find by studying the Florida crash facts and looking at general statistics more frequently used. You can basically combine those to get the specific record set of interest. I'll just leave those alone, but show you how to use city or county. So if I wanted to see distribution of crashes, say in Alachua County, you just start typing or pick from the list and then simply refresh the map. So we can see what kind of timeliness. There are several, in Alachua County, obviously, there are several agencies that report crashes. I am not making a distinction. I'm looking for a county overall. And you can see, you can't help but see that there's something going on in November 2017, right? So this percentage of reported between 11 and 30 days, it's way high compared to the other averages. And it looked like something happened at that time. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but that basically you can start to see these things. And if you are using data that is very current, or you want the data to be very current, say in the last 3 months, then you got to go to that month, to that particular year, and look at the data. That will give you the confidence that how complete your crash database is based on the analysis that you're trying to do. And it seems like in this case, seemed pretty complete, right? See, majority, or these percentages, 96%, 91%, 94%. So if you did an analysis of crashes for the last 3 months, you're getting over 94%. You know that over 94% of the crashes was reported within 10 days. Right, so the data is pretty current. Or even here, right? If we go in April, so far 98% is between 0 and 10 days. Now this is way too current, so I'm not quite sure, what the full story is here. But it's fantastic, right? The thing that but we're still may be missing data here. So I would definitely look at the prior month or earlier and look at what those numbers are. If you wanted to do an analysis by your own agency, if you're law enforcement, so since we're here in Gainesville, we're just picking Gainesville PD and then rerun it. Now it's going to narrow the data only to that agency. In fact, you can completely remove the county at this point. It doesn't matter, right? It's just the agency at this point. So you could see the timeliness of how well, how quickly the Gainesville PD report crashes to the state, which looks really good. So let's go 2017 to see how they're reporting them. And again, we have a little issue in November here. I'm not sure what it is, but other than that, you barely see any green and very, very tiny gray. So it looks like Gainesville PD is doing a good job reporting this data to the state in a very timely fashion in that 0 to 10 day, 1 to 10 day window. So please play around with this, with all these charts. I focused on the timeliness since that's new, not typically used very much, but the rest of them are pretty self-explanatory, so I'd encourage you to do that. The other thing I want to point out here is that we also have citations, so I'm clicking on it, and then you have similar charts for citation. Now, citation data, the charts won't look as good because the database is very fresh. We only have January 1st still present. And therefore, there would be no options for comparative analysis and any of that. You could see the limitation in the data here. But perhaps at the moment, what might be most useful is to look at the citation by attribute and look at violation, these three attributes. You've got type, which is probably most useful here, seeing the variation. You've got age. All three are important to do the analysis. But these are also in the interactive portion, in the map-based portion. And then you also have gender, which matches those that we saw over there. We don't have timeliness on the citations yet. That is certainly something that we're looking into. You can narrow down here, just like I did for crashes, by city, reporting agency, and the violation classification if need be, and see what the results look like. So with this, I'd like to close what I was planning to talk about today. I want to see if there is any question that I may answer, although it looks like Dan's covered them both. We are at 2:01, so we're right on time, but I'd like to see if there's anybody else have any other outstanding questions. Okay, looks like there are no more questions. So thank you very much for attending. This is the fourth and the last one in the series. Again, this week we did a repeat from what we covered last week. You will be getting an email from me with a link to the recording, as well as the materials that we're going to put together based on the questions and answers, as well as the links. I'll attach the PDF of the PowerPoint that we presented here, so that you have access to all those materials. And please share those with your other colleagues that didn't have a chance to attend these webinars. Eventually, we will be we'll be offering these webinars again, probably toward the month of September. and by then, hopefully, we will have access to historic citation data that is prior to 2018, as well as made more progress to add more functionality in the reporting side. Plus, if you have other needs that you'd like to see here, please feel free to contact us. Here's my information. So you can feel free to email me, and then if there is something urgent, please call me on the phone shown on the screen. Okay, at this point, I'll go ahead and close, and I'll look forward to getting any comments or any input that you may have, especially as I've said before, and I put it up here on the screen. We really like to see what do you need. Are the things that are here in Signal 4 everything that you need, or there have other needs that will make this more useful for your work? We would like to hear from you, so please let us know. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much.